Hey everybody, and have you ever seen a film adaptation of a beloved cartoon character so good that it redefines how he perceives that character? Cause Goofy got two of them, and now Mickey and friends suck compared to him. Now what could be said about Disney? More so their cartoon mascots, Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Pluto, and lest we forget Goofy, thanks to his entertaining how-to shorts during the golden age of American animation. In the 90s, he would also have a show as part of the Disney Afternoon called Goof Troop, which featured him and his son Max going on multiple adventures. In 1995, this would lead to a theatrical follow-up film named The Goofy Movie, and despite middle-of-the-road reviews from critics, it would develop a fan following over time, and even a straight-to-video sequel in 2000 called an extremely goofy movie. Those madmen! So today, we're gonna be looking at both Goofy movies to see if they really are the cult classics everyone hails them as. Starting right off with... a movie. Did I accidentally put on the wrong film? Oh, never mind. We start in a dream sequence which scenery looks like the trailer for Toys for some reason, with Goofy's son Max, who has a crush on a girl named Roxanne, but also fears of getting embarrassed by, or more so becoming his dad. He wakes up, and we also see that he's a fan of Powerline. It's the last day of school before the summer, and after briefly screwing up his first encounter of Roxanne, Max meets up with his friends PJ and Bobby voiced by Pauly Shore, who you may remember him a couple of years ago as
Father, when can I leave to be on my own? I've got the whole world to see.
They set up an elaborate sabotage of a school presentation after the class rep Stacy invites everyone to watch a Powerline concert at her place, with Max singing Powerline impressing the school, including Roxanne. Max then gets called by the principal for his shenanigans, who rings Goofy at work. He advises Goofy to spend quality time with his son, warning him that Max will get the electric chair if he keeps up with his behavior. Okay! Whereas Max gets invited by Roxanne to see the Powerline concert. As Max comes home, Goofy begins a family tradition cross-country road trip with Max to go out fishing with him in Idaho, throwing him off to put it lightly. Max briefly makes a stop to Roxanne to tell her he won't make the concert viewing, but he then lies to her saying that he'll be on stage with Powerline in LA. Goofy and Max now hit the road, and one fun road trip song with the cameo of Mickey and Donald later, they make their first stop at a tourist attraction with animatronic beavers. We're waiting every night to finally romance him. Goofy is a blast, but the same can't be said for Max, hating every second of the trip thus far. They continue the trip and head to a forest to set up camp. Pete and PJ in their gargantuan RV also stumble by, with Pete telling Goofy to be more assertive with his son, who teaches Max how to fish, with some light goofy hijinks in the process, leading them to catch Bigfoot, because the Sasquatch monster was busy that day. Pete and PJ head off, with Goofy and Max hiding in their car. They then have a can of alphabet soup, and you get a touching scene of Goofy and Max bonding making messages out of the letters. Later at night, Max tries to write a letter confessing to Roxanne, but finds Goofy's map in the glove compartment, which Max then changes the route from Idaho to LA. Pretty out of character for Max, especially after how he bonded with Goofy a couple of minutes ago. The next day, Goofy now puts Max in charge of the map, which leads to a montage of the two in numerous places such as the beach and amusement park. They make it to a motel where Pete and PJ also happen to be around. Pete overhears Max telling PJ how he overrode the map, who then tells Goofy in the hot tub the bad news, with Goofy in disbelief at first, before being devastated and crushed once he finds out about the map. I have to say, they nailed this scene of a happy-go-lucky character being heartbroken, and especially to his voice actor Bill Farmer for selling how depressed Goofy is in his otherwise silly voice. On the road, they head towards a junction between LA and Idaho, with Max instructing his father to go to LA. In the canyon, Goofy still feels depressed and angry at his son for changing the map. Max pushes the car by accident, with the two chasing it, leading to them being in the water, whilst arguing about the trip from both perspectives, with Max not wanting to go in the first place, and Goofy not wanting it to fail in life. Which then leads to one of the hardest hitting lines I ever heard in anything, with Max telling his father that he has his own life, and Goofy stating that he just wanted to be a part of it. Give me a moment.
You're crying from
A Goofy movie.
The old man got to me.
All right. Just get yourself together. I don't know if I can be friends with you anymore after this display.
Oh, shut up!
Goofy and Max then sing reconciling with each other before reaching a waterfall, but Max uses his newly taught fishing skills to save Goofy. They then make it to the Powerline concert straight out of nowhere, and they make it on stage dancing and singing alongside Powerline, impressing Max's friends at home and surprising Pete. The film closes with Max telling Roxanne the truth, with the two now hooking up and Goofy introducing himself to the couple. I enjoyed this one. While not groundbreaking, it's still pretty good as theatrical follow-ups to kids' cartoons go. It had some fun slapstick and escapades, strong emotional moments, Goofy was brilliantly brought to life in ways never before seen at the time. It resonates with both kids and adults surprisingly well, the musical numbers are bangers, and the film has a nice amount of charm. Though there is the odd out-of-character moment, how Goofy and Max snuck into Powerline to this day remains as one of the world's biggest unsolved mysteries, and Bigfoot. Really? Still, this film stands out above the crowd. Don't you just find it funny that every theatrical animated film Disney released that year was good except for the one made in-house? And now for an extremely goofy movie. We start with Goofy and Pete holding a barbecue celebrating Max, PJ, and Bobby all going to college, with the boys excited to compete in the X Games and Goofy telling them to focus on their learning. They then head out and say farewell the next day, leaving Goofy depressed that his son is now gone. Max, PJ, and Bobby make it to the campus and impress everyone there with their skateboarding skills, including the legendary Gammas led by Bradley Uppercrust III. He offers Max to join his team, but decides to stick with his friends, with Max discovering that Bradley and the highly popular Gammas is a total jerk.
You're kidding!
After a beret girl helps them sort things out, Max and Bradley settle a wager for winning the X Games. Unfortunately, back at home, Goofy is still caught up in emotions about Max gone and causes chaos at the toy factory he works in, leading him to lose his job. Whilst finding a new job, he realizes that he needs to finish college to get the required qualifications.
How the hell did you get a job at a supermarket and toy factory without them then?
With that, Goofy comes to Max's class, much to his embarrassment. The two then set some ground rules for each other, mainly to avoid embarrassment on Max's end, and in the library, Goofy meets a librarian named Sylvia, who both bond over the 70s and set a date with each other. When Goofy goes to tell his son the good news, he stumbles upon him skateboarding and inadvertently pulls off some sick tricks, becoming a playable character in the next Tony Hawk game. This makes Bradley intrigued and invites Goofy to compete with the Gammas in the X Games after Max hesitated him joining his team, now making him a member of the Gammas. At night, the boys head to a dance club, with PJ hooking up with the beret girl, and Goofy and Sylvia rocking the dance floor, or in this case the disco, with the two now falling in love. The quarterfinals come up, with Goofy stealing the show, solidifying the Gammas' place in the finals, whereas Max and his team just barely make it despite the Gammas cheating, making Max feel down and eventually tell his old man to screw off. This gets to Goofy, as in the midterm exam, he fails the test thanks to the film turning into Mario Wonder before everything shatters around him. This also deflates Sylvia, who set up a fancy dinner to celebrate the occasion. Back at home, Goofy talks things out with Pete, making him realize that he lost his focus of studying, making him go back to try again. Feeling guilty for what he said to Goofy, and also bummed out for his skateboard performance, Max considers quitting college, but is encouraged by his friends to stick around. After apologizing to Sylvia for missing their date, she helps Goofy study in a montage, and it would pay off, with Goofy getting good grades as a result. Afterwards, Goofy tells Bradley that he's leaving the Gammas, with Bradley taking it personally by kicking him out instead. When returning a pin, he overhears that the Gammas have been cheating at the X Games the entire time. The big day finally arrives with the X Games Grand Final, as Goofy tries to warn Max and his friends about their competition, but they don't believe him. During this, the Gammas rig the event to secure first place, but Max's team persevere regardless. Just as the Grand Triathlon starts, Bradley causes PJ to fly out to the competition. Max apologizes to his father via a blimp and asks for his help to win. He comes in the nick of time and begin the triathlon via rollerblading, cycling, and finally skateboarding. Max and Goofy make it near the end despite Bradley's cheating, which then leads to Max and even a Gamma member to crash in and be trapped in a giant X. Max and even Goofy come in to save him, and then in turn help Max reach the finish line, winning the triathlon. Max and his team win the X Games, with the Gammas losing, much like 93% of every sports movie ever made. Max calls off the wager with Bradley, who then gets launched into the stratosphere by the Gamma member Max saved. We cut to Goofy's graduation, with Max giving him his trophy, and we end with Goofy and Sylvia driving away into the distance. This was a pretty worthy sequel. More fun moments, effective story beats, satisfying character development, it's just as hilarious as the first movie, the sports sequences were exciting, and Goofy is just as much of a blast here as the original. Between the two, I'd say the first movie was better for its musical numbers and cross-generational appeal, but that's by a pretty slim margin. In conclusion, I can't wait to see the Goofinator.
This is probably the best sequel Disney has ever made. That is pretty sad if you really think about it. Well, I finally beat Shaferollis to reviewing some Disney movies for once. And those were the Goofy movies. Well, not these life-changing masterpieces by any stretch. They're still pretty good for what they are, movies with Goofy in it. They're fun, yet surprisingly heartfelt, much like the vast majority of the Disney library now that I think about it. And they further showcase as to why Goofy reigns supreme, with these films probably being the best interpretation of said character. These two films are indeed worth checking out, but more so for Disney fans. And on the subject of Disney, what films in the canon have I got to review next? Oh, come on! Have you seen any of these films? And if you did, what'd you think of them? Let me know down below, and like always, thanks for watching.